They want Simic again, huh? Yeah, of course they want Simic. The green, the blue, and all the cards.
Are you okay, man?
Simic why did Simic have to win again?
Aren't you supposed to be saving magic?
Oh, what the hell, dude?
Dude, go outside.
What's up, Planeswalkers? How you doing? Today we're going to talk about another Simic commander from MH3, but unlike the last one, this card has the chance to be fun. We're talking about Omo, Queen of Vesuva, a blue or green and 2 colorless 1/5 that says whenever Omo enters the battlefield or attacks, put an everything counter on each of up to 1 target land, and the same for a creature. Each land with an everything counter on it has every land type in addition to its other types, and each non-land creature with an everything counter on it has every creature type. Now, everyone and their mother has been using this card to build landfall piles, but today I wanted to do something a little different like the true brewing genius that I am, so I settled on a list that is everything tribal, meaning we're going to be playing a lot of random payoffs that work together like water and oil. Lucky for us, our commander is an emulsifier that turns the list into something truly special. We'll turn all our creatures into shapeshifters, using our commander's everything counter of course, and taking advantage of some really powerful lord effects. And of course, you know me, there's a combo in there just in case we have to do it to them. On a final note, this list is really budget friendly, coming in at about $75 as of this recording, meaning we don't have to use the old reliable. So the bulk of our deck is Lord effects. These cards have certain creatures that they buff. Since our commander can repeatedly turn our creatures into every creature type, stacking Lord effects can make our board really strong. So first we have Gem Hide Sliver. It's not going to make our creatures strong, but it is going to turn them into mana dorks, which we'll use to get out our expensive cards. Lord of the Unreal is going to shut off target removal at our creatures, or creatures with counters that is. One thing to note is that our commander is a shapeshifter, so it gets benefits immediately from our Lord effects. Mana Weft Swiver, like the Gem Hide, which I could have put in the ramp section, and arguably they do belong there, but I didn't because they are technically Lord effects. Anyways, this card is going to let us tap our creatures for mana. Master of the Pearl Trident hands out Island Walk to our creatures, making beating down the blue player a cakewalk. Feline Sovereign will give us some random protection that won't be relevant in most of our games, but we're playing this card for its artifact and enchantment hate when cats deal damage to players. Malcolm, Keen-Eyed Navigator, we're going to be playing this card fairly. I know, shocker, but yeah, we're going to use this pirate to basically get a bunch of treasures out of our creatures. Brew Worm Speaker dishes out Trample and a pretty sizable buff while giving us tokens on the cheap if we have a big creature out. Biowaste Blob is a fun lord that needs setup time and our commander to function correctly, but that's nothing new since our entire deck is really reliant on our commander. Hawkball the Surging Soul, because exploring is a powerful mechanic and why shouldn't we abuse it. He also comes with a fun little ability that puts some extra lands down and draws cards, depending on the state of your hand of course. Herald of Hoofbeats is our best way to make our creatures unblockable because anyone playing horsemanship is probably too busy checking their blood pressure to even notice you swinging at them. Ferrisbane Warchief gives us sweet trample with some vigilance on top in case we need to get through our creatures rather than around them. Seafloor Oracle is simple card draw and works well with the lords that make our creatures unblockable. Speaking of which, Shifting Sliver will make our board unblockable unless you're playing against slivers, which at that point just play one of the other lords. Azumi Lady of Scrolls is a powerful card that we can use to draw loads of cards, and part of what makes this card so powerful is the fact that we can tap summon sick creatures so long as they are wizards or they have the commander's everything counter on them. And we do have more shapeshifter support in our deck if you're worried right now about how much work our commander has to put in. Flint Leaf Archdruid is our rudest card since it lets us steal lands, but I'm not too worried about being mean with this card since the majority of our deck is just fun, janky lords. Galecaster Colossus is some nice tech that lets us tap wizards and bounce non-land permanents our opponents control. If you face this card in a dedicated wizards deck, then you know just how annoying this card can be. In this deck, its power is still just as potent. Full Moon's Rise grants the trample keyword we've been chasing, while also being our deck's best protection. We can sack the enchantment to regenerate werewolves we control. Okay, now on to the ramp. These are cards we'll use to play out our hand fast, or some of the ramp pieces enable the combo part of our deck. Harabaz Druid, Priestess Titania, and Elvish Archdruid are all mana dorks with big potential, which we'll use to combo off with Staff of Domination. They'll need to tap for 5 mana for that to work, but with help from our commander, that shouldn't be too hard. I'll cover the full combo at the end of the video if you're confused. Seaton, Courser Protector, is another creature that'll let us tap our creatures, provided they have the everything counter, as soon as they come out for extra mana. Farseek to grab any dual lands you can afford. We're not playing any in this deck, which might make you scratch your head on why I'm including it, but I like to recommend cards that are good in just about any deck, and since Rampant Growth is about the same price, we might as well buy this card instead since you'll get more miles out of it. Nature's Lore is in our deck for the exact same reason. Sylvan Scrying won't ramp us, but it will grab us a land that can generate us a lot of mana. Circuitous Root because we are playing Gates in the deck, and you can always use this card to find basics. Hour of Promise is more land tutoring, but this time they'll go straight to the battlefield, and thanks to our commander, we should be getting zombies out of the deal. Expedition map for even more land tutoring, but trust me, our commander does some cool land shenanigans, so we'll want as many ways to grab certain lands out of our deck. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Simic Signet, Talisman of Curiosity, and finally Realmbreaker, the Invasion Tree, which we'll use for ramp early, and then we have a fun combo in the deck for the late game. Since I'm not covering it at the end of the video, I'll just explain it really quick. We can grab all the creatures out of our deck for 10 mana with Realmbreaker and Masswood Nexus. The board state we'll be left with should be enough to close out any game. Spelunking is an extra land drop and a way to make our lands untapped. This is going to be important since the budget does make our mana base feature a surplus of tap lands. Support of our deck is going to involve cards that either help make our creatures every type or abuse the fact that our creatures have counters. A Meat Boy Changeling is not only a shapeshifter, it also gives us a repeatable way to give our creatures without the everything counter each creature type. Evan Courier will let us transfer the counters from our commander onto other creatures. We are playing Karn's Bastion so that we can double the counters on all our creatures and then use this card to move them off. Zeotolak the Smiling Flood lets all of our creatures and lands with counters untap on our end step. Plus we have an Island Walk card, and we can use Zeotolak to give islands to our opponents. Masswood Nexus, which hopefully you remember from the combo that I talked about, but even without the combo, this card removes the need for our commander. But don't let that stop you from using your commander to put counters on cards because people will blow up Masswood Nexus, so always look at it like a plan B. Interaction includes cards that'll answer problems or create problems for our opponents, although in today's deck, most of these cards are removal. Masked Vandal is a shapeshifter that we can use to blow up artifacts and enchantments. We do need a creature in our graveyard, but it shouldn't be too hard of a task. Cyclone Summer gives us a big body and should bounce our opponent's board while leaving ours intact, hopefully. And since that bounce hits non-land permanents, it's really good versus a lot of the treasure-heavy decks that you see. Evasive Action is a counter that abuses the fact that our commander can make a land every basic type. Reality Shift is our answer to hard-to-remove creatures. Simic does struggle to exile cards, and thankfully this card is cheap. Beast Within is a straight-up permanent removal, and a 3/3 isn't going to give us any problems. Peer Pressure might seem like a strange thing to include in the interaction section, but this card can be an effective way of stealing problem creatures. No one said that we could just steal a creature instead of removing it. Of course, this card does require setup, but if we do manage to use it effectively, it is really fun. Whelming Wave is some mass bounce that isn't too harsh on our creatures if we failed to put everything counters on all of them. Imprisoning the Moon is some enchant removal. We're playing this card for two reasons. It's cheap and it can hit lands or indestructible creatures. The last thing we need to talk about is everything that just didn't fit in one spot of the deck. I like to call this section the value pile of the deck, as all the cards give us some good value. Soluvian of the Sea and Sky gives us a very light Lord effect, but we really want this card for its repeatable draw, and the indestructibility makes it a perfect beat stick. Seagate Loremaster can draw us lots of cards, and even without a counter, this card has most of the creature types we want, namely Wizard and Merfolk. Absorb Identity can be a fun way to copy your opponent's best creature while setting them back since they'll have to recast it. Aggressive Biomancy is a perfect way to copy some of our powerful lords or something like Galecast Colossus and show your opponents the meaning of pain, as you can have the giants fight most creatures thanks to their sizing, and then tap them to set your opponents back to the Stone Age. Finale of Revelation can give us lots of cards and a shortcut the staff combo if we have it in hand. Balloons to Cosmos is a cheap way to help us construct a better hand, and it's easy to recast since our commander is a shapeshifter. Blue Sun Zenith is our win con if we pull off the staff combo. You can always use this though in the meantime to draw some extra cards. Ghostly Flicker as a way to get some extra ETBs out of our cards. Want to be careful though, we don't want to lose the counters on creatures. This card should really only be used for your commander mainly since it won't have counters. March from Velis Vel. Copying the right lord can give us a way to deal some sneaky lethal, and the flashback just makes this card that much better. Distant Melody is more card draw. Bring to Light is a way for us to tutor important cards to our hand, and we can play this card for 5 different colored mana if need be. Multiclass Baldric is a fun little equipment that we can use to make a creature really annoying, and the lifelink is always nice in battle cruiser tables. Staff of Domination is a simple combo piece that serves as utility otherwise, but if we're being honest here, don't play this card out unless you want to be targeted. Cryptic Gateway allows us to cheat creatures out. Deep Root Pilgrimage is in our list since it's a good way to give us a board or chump blockers depending on how the game is going. It's worth saying that you can build an infinite board with this card and the staff combo if the Blue Sun Zenith gets exiled. Endless Evil can start printing out tokens of one of our lords, and if we have an everything counter on that lord, then we'll get Endless Evil back to our hand if it dies. Our final card is Guardian Project. Thankfully this card was reprinted and it's a good time to pick it up since most green decks will play it. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's a little enchantment that can draw us a lot of cards. For the mana base, I recommend Islands and Forests, but if that's too much thinking, then feel free to copy the mana base found in the deck list in the description of this video. Now before I get into my recommended lands, I do want to mention that our commander can give everything counters to lands, making them every land type. There are a lot of ways to break that. We chose in this deck to use Tron lands and Baldur's Gate since they're super cheap and it will generate us a bunch of mana. However, Nesting Grounds and Karn's Bastion are my recommended lands for this deck, since together we can duplicate and transfer our everything counters if our commander gets blown up. For the combo section, I'll be talking about the Staff combo. So naturally, we'll need Staff of Domination, a mana dork that can tap for at least 5 mana. Both cards should be on the battlefield, and the mana dork shouldn't have Summoning Sickness. We can then float 5 mana from the dork, then we'll spend 3 of it to use the Staff and untap the mana dork. Then we can spend another mana to untap the Staff. We can then repeat this process for infinite mana. Once we have infinite mana, we can then use the Staff to draw our deck, untapping it all along the way. Once we have Blue Sun Zenith in our hand, we can stop drawing cards. We use Blue Sun Zenith to make our opponents draw their deck. Since Zenith reshuffles into the deck after we use it, we just keep drawing it until we have no more opponents. Thanks for making it this far in the video and giving me the time of day. I hope you enjoyed the deck list. You can tell me about it in the comments below. If you want to see a more expensive and considerably evil deck, then check out this mass land destruction commander I built. Subscribe if you want to see bigger and better content in the future. I'll see you in the next video.